While Patrick's getting ready, let me tell you that movement that we have towards this new Hall of Fame, it's his fault. Patrick did a Facebook post, I think, about why we needed to have a Music Hall of Fame in Fresno or the Central Valley. And Josh Teehee of the Fresno Bee picked it up and wrote about it in the paper. And that's when Don Fisher, myself, and Ray Settle read that article and decided that it was time to move on and make this happen. So it's all Patrick's fault.
I want to say thank you for inviting me to the board, for being here. I'm certainly not the first with the idea of a Hall of Fame, right? I mean, I'm sure people have been talking about it over the years. I just put a post up on Facebook, and it got a ton of shares, and that's all the part that I did. You guys did the real work here. A few people have written, different organizations said they're going to start something, but this is the first one I've seen that actually taken legs. So I'm just going to share a few songs that sort of tell my story. And being at Fresno State, there was a big musical force that was teaching there. His name was Juan Serrano. He was a guitar professor. And if you've been in Fresno State Music Building, there's these practice rooms, right? And so I used to practice right across from Juan Serrano's room. I think I was trying to impress him or something. I don't even know. And I remember the violinists always sort of are like ghost figures around Fresno State. Like you hear about them, but you never see them. Not joking. Like I was like, there's violin players at Fresno State. And so I used to practice right there in the kind of walkway where everybody goes. And I remember the guitar players would step out and be like, peek in. Like, what's this guy think he's doing here? You know, and in truth, I was trying to soak up what he was teaching, his lessons. I could kind of hear what was going on. And I really fell in love with flamenco music, which was a no-no in my house because my dad was old school Mexican, so he's like, we don't want no Spanish music here. We do Vicente Fernandez and Mexican music only. So it's old school. I was like, all right, Dad. It's not my battle. I don't know. So when I heard the music, I was like, man, what is that? It just touches my soul. And I really wanted to learn flamenco. So I eventually started hanging out with some of the guitar players, and they're picking up the scales and, you know, how things are done and the approach. And it was a whole world of music that I was introduced to. Just like when I met Steve with swing jazz and folk music, I grew up on Belmont. We didn't listen to none of that. So that was like a whole new world for me. And so was flamenco. So anyway, I just want to share one of the flamenco tunes that I played, and one of the cooler gigs I got to do, probably the most wild concert I've ever done, and I've done some wild concerts, was opening up on the side stage for the Gypsy Kings. It was wild, let me tell you. I was like, man, wine does a good job when people drink a lot of it. So it was in LA, and people were partying after, and I was like, I thought I was like at a metal show or something. I was like, you sure this is a flamenco concert? So anyway, here's a little Gypsy Kings for you. Thank you. A couple years ago, I got to tour in Texas doing Tejano music. Anybody familiar with what Tejano music is? So, Tejano music is a style of Mexican-American music that was born out of Texas. And I got to go do in San Antonio and Las Vegas and hit the scene. And everybody was immediately curious for two reasons. First reason was I'm from California. They don't think you know about music if you're not from California. Like, all right. And the second, I played violin. There's no violin in Tejano music. I was determined to show them that you could do violin with Tejano music. And so I had this curiosity around me, some of the musicians, and I remember they got a kick out of me playing this one song, which is more kind of norteño, but it's really popular in the circuit. And I don't want to say his name, but I was in this hotel in San Antonio with this Tejano legend. Okay, his name was Eddie Gonzalez. And, man, he was pounding beers. And I was like, what the heck? And he was like, play that violin, boy. And he was... There's more to it than that, but, I was like, wow. Anyway, so I got famous, and not famous, but well-known in the circuit, which I didn't stay in because I just wanted to explore playing this song right here. So here's a little famous song that some people might know. Okay, just a little sample of that, just so you guys know what the heck I was talking about. Good, I didn't want to play the whole thing, since I got a limited time to squish my story into like 15 minutes. This next one I'm going to play is an original that I wrote, and this is about when I was at Fresno State and playing the flamenco music right around the time I was jamming with Steve. I got in a little group, a flamenco group, and we used to play in Fresno State down in the pit there, where the lunch pit is, try to impress girls and whatnot, And we started getting gigs. I remember our first gig was Patio Cafe. I was like, man, this place is fancy. I never even been north of Shields. I was like, what's going on over here? So we got our first gig in San Diego. That was our first real gig. I remember we were all excited, right? So we had these three guys, and we're gonna go to San Diego. We're like, great, we got to San Diego. Who's gonna drive? I was like, I'm the only one with a car, right? Except my car could barely make it to Fresno State, let alone San Diego. So I'm like, well, let's do one of these deals and we're gonna make it. So I was like, guys, I got a great idea. We're gonna take a shortcut to get to San Diego. They're like, what's your great idea? I got it. We're gonna go across the Mojave Desert. We're gonna get there in no time. You know what happens next. We break down in the middle of Mojave. 3 broke Mexican kids from Fresno done playing flamenco gig in San Diego. So we get to the gig, finally, right? We did break down, get it fixed. It was a minor timing belt. Not minor, but, had to call my dad and hear it later. We get to San Diego, we play the gig, and we're hungry, right? I don't know, if you play it was a working gig. I know there's a lot of working musicians here. A working musician gig is 3 to 4 hours, so it's brutal, right? You get out about 1:30, let me tell the story. You get out at 1:30, you pack up your gear. Parking in downtown San Diego is crap, so you gotta go get your car, drive around. You can never find the owner when you gotta get paid, right? It's like, all of a sudden he disappears. And you're like, gosh. So it's 2:30, we're starving. I was like, man, what are we gonna eat? We can't get in anywhere because we're not 21 yet. So we're like, we can't go to any clubs, everything's closing. So I told the guys, just like Mojave, I got a great idea. Let's go to Tijuana and get tacos. I mean, why not? It's 2:30 in the morning. What can go wrong in Tijuana? So we went to Tijuana, we leave our instruments, we go to the border, and they were a little nervous, So I was like, it's good. I didn't know if it was gonna be good. And we get across the border right there, and there's the first tacos. And I was like, we don't want these tacos. We want the real tacos. So I told the taxi driver, take us to the best tacos in Tijuana. And I don't know if I should have said that because we went on the longest drive I've ever been. I was like, are you sure we didn't pass the best ones back there? And I was like, oh no, I just could see National Geographic kidnapping stories. I was like, shouldn't have asked for the best tacos. Anyway, so we get to the taco place and we eat tacos. And what was fascinating about driving through Tijuana was that, I grew up poor, but I didn't grow up that poor. That was poor. But what was amazing to see was the beautiful art in Tijuana. Once you get past sort of the tourist area, there's all these art. And Mexico's always been like that, like this rebellion with art, right? It's and so you see these beautiful murals just kind of set up against crumbling houses, And I just thought that juxtaposition was beautiful, that people could do that. And anyway, I wanted to write a story about being in Tijuana. And maybe we had a few drinks. I didn't tell that part. We had a few drinks. And so this is what it sounds like in Tijuana at 3:30 in the morning getting tacos. So this is an original of mine. Crossing the border. All safe. Smell the tacos? Dos asada. All right, here comes that first bite. Thank you. I'm going to play one more for you guys and then head out because I got a gig, another gig. Typical working musician. I played a wedding before this, a quinceanera, sunrise wedding this morning, and I got a private party after this. So that's how it is, man. Them diapers don't stop. It's like I didn't realize. All right. So I'm going to finish off with one more, and I want to share. This is an important part of my musical making. I think the Fresno musical making is blues music. It's a very important part, right? So I remember my dad was obsessed with blues music, and so he'd play blues music all hours of the night, and so he'd have a few drinks, and he'd be up, and I remember he'd get me up, Patrick. I could hear him yelling from the kitchen or the living room. I'd be like, oh no, I don't want to go. It's like, get out here. I was like, all right. So I knew what he wanted already. So I'd take my violin, and he'd be listening to like Jimmy Reed or something, and he'd be like, play some of this. And in my head, I was like, Dad, the violin doesn't play the blues. Hello, I'm in orchestra. But I didn't tell him that because that would have ended not good. So I was just like, all right, Dad. So I'd play a little blues here or there and, kind of just appease him and not realizing he was introducing me to this great music, right? I was just busy rebelling the whole time. And he'd be playing Muddy Waters. I can remember it to a T, the stuff he liked. Muddy Waters, Jimmy Reed, Albert King, B.B. King, anybody named King, and just the good stuff, right? And so he implanted that sort of in my DNA without me even knowing. And one of the first jams I ever went to, actually, is she here? I thought I saw Baby B. Baby B's right here. Give it a hand for Baby B. One of the very first jam sessions I went to, actually the very first, I don't even think I was not 21 yet, but we won't share that part. I was like 19, and I went to her Monday night blues jams, and I tried to, get in the mix with a violin like I wasn't going to stick out like a sore thumb, and she let me stay for the blues jam, so I have to give props where props are due. She was the very first and let me jam and get it out. So that's important for me. And anyway, so I couldn't share my story my Fresno story without at least playing one blues. So I'm going to play a little country blues for you. And this is a version of Muddy Waters, Got My Mojo Working, country blues style. A la Eastside Fresno, Belmont. So a funny story as I'm loading it up here. I play this everywhere. So I recently got to play in a church in the West Side, and they were like, "Would you come play for our Christmas dinner?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to play, but I'll do it. You know, it's a gig." So I was like up there, and I was like, I busted out the blues, right? I busted out this song. And it was kind of like everybody, like, I didn't know it was one of those churches you're not supposed to play dance music, because it was a black church. So I was like, they're cool with it, right? Not this one. But I seen the chef in the back totally dancing. I was like, yes, you understand me. So that was Chef Paul, by the way, who runs over there. He was like, you had me dancing in church, man. Great place. If you haven't done it, go check out their food. All right, so here we go. Enough talking. I know I'm talking dang too much. You guys have a great night. Thank you.